come through a banner of the quadrants so divided in our city. You know, you got a lot of people who will speak uptown. You got a lot of people who will say southeast, northeast, southwest. But in all actuality, when you come into the feds, DC become one. You don't even hear people saying, I'm from northwest, I'm from northeast, I'm from southeast, I'm from southwest.
So my brother Wali here had the very fortunate occurrence of interviewing Mr. Antone White. And today we want to share a little bit with you about that interview. But first of all, Brother Wali, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in the city.
Oh, okay. Wali Johnson, that's my name. I've been in this city for my whole life. I never lived nowhere else. I've been in this city my whole life. And throughout my journey, I was one of the ones that maybe been a part of the problem in this city. Right? I was one of the ones in those neighborhoods causing different disturbances, bringing down property values and stuff like that. That things that I understand now that I didn't understand then. And I had my journey where I might have went through Seton, the Oak Hill, the DC jail, the Lawton, to the feds and everything. But I came home and I made a transition. And I chose to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. To be able to build character in some of the youth and some of the individuals and give back to the returned citizens. In fact, we changed the name from ex-offenders to returned citizens. So that's been kind of my role ever since I came home in 2002, just to make sure that I give youth a positive arm looking and be a role model, right? And understanding that I'm one of the vice gerents in this city. So by me being here my whole life, I'm a big fan of my city. Everything that goes on in this city concerns me, and I have a concern in that. So that's pretty much who I am. And right now, I'm working over in Ward 8 Southeast, running a program called J&J. We're in cahoots with the ONE's office, which is the mayor's initiative she started, called the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And we do violence interruption in 6 targeted neighborhoods over in Ward 8. Also, I'm over at DYS, working with a program called Credible Messages, where we hire returned citizens that come home and that want to do some of the same things that we do and things like that. So those are some of the things that I do in the community now, and that's pretty much who I am.
Okay, right before we get into the interview that you had with Antone, expound a little bit on what you said about you were part of the problem. What is it that you were doing that was causing problems in the city or made the city unattractive, so to speak, back in the late 80s, early 90s?
I was one of the ones that was a part of the crew. We called ourselves the Circle Boys around in Lincoln Heights. And, we was victims of gun violence, and sometimes we might have perpetuated it. I mean, we sold narcotics. We felt like that was an avenue in the road, a way out for us. Which we learned that it was something that was given to black people from different government agencies to be a part of this title, where they brought the drugs into our community to keep us down. You know what I mean? I didn't figure that out until I got incarcerated and started opening books.
Right.
And reading, understanding who I am and who we are as a people.
So did you ever cross paths with Antone White in the street?
No, not in the streets. But the thing was with Antone always had what you might say a name for itself.
A reputation.
A reputation. Not even just him. Like even all of the guys that was around, you knew of them even though you didn't know them. But when I got incarcerated, and Danny, you probably can attest to it because I was 18 years old on a conspiracy case, and I was in federal. And when I got over there, some of the first people I bumped into was you, Ronald Hughes, and some of the other guys that was on your case. And I had on the blue Eddie Bauer and the new Bruce Smiths, and y'all ain't seen them yet. So even though we ain't know each other, first thing y'all said, man, what's them right there? Ronald said, what's them? And I said, man, these the Bruce Smith right here, man. He was like, oh yeah. He was like, man, that's the blue Eddie with them. Yeah, that man, them Jones look sweet, right? So Then when we got back over to jail, and I was just coming in, y'all was going to court. But when we got back over to jail, I wound up in Northwest 2 with you and Ronald. You see what I'm saying? And that's how, right, so those relationships came from there. But I knew about Antone through my co-defendant, Jabbar, right? He was over to jail on a conspiracy before me. And he was over there with Antone White, Ernest Smith, and guys like that. A lot of guys he was in there with, I wound up getting connection through him. So when I got over there and I seen y'all, I didn't even know y'all was Tone co-defendants until we got into the unit, but I already knew who Tone was. So me and Tone, we didn't bump heads, man, 'cause off the break I already knew who he was.
Okay, well, share with us a little bit of the interview. What did you all talk about? What did you all get into?
Well, one of the things we talked about in the interview was, the fact that he's doing time right now. The gist of it was that he's doing time right now for things that he beat in court. Cases that was beat in court, hung jury, things like that. So by him being found guilty on the not the CCE, what is called the RICO Act. By him being found guilty on the RICO Act, that allowed him to take a pre-sentence report. A reporter, you know how you go meet with your pre-sentence people and they ask you about your juvenile life, your family life, and they don't ask you, have you ever been convicted of something? They ask you, have you ever been locked up?
Right.
So when they ask you, have you ever been locked up, and you say, yeah, I was locked up for this, I was locked up for that. But the outcome might have been when we went to court, I was found innocent because I was innocent.
And they still enhanced you for that
right,
job.
But that didn't play a part in it. So what they did was they took the fact that he was charged with certain things, he beat those things, but the judge can look at those things that he was charged with and what he got found guilty for. And like Tone said, they added on those points. Like you were just saying, they added on points for him being a leader.
Yes.
And then they added on points for him for stuff that he wasn't even found guilty of. He beat him, right? But they raised it up and gave him life. And really, he was only found guilty for drugs. And it was like 52 grams, like something that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? 52 grams, you're talking about something that's worth probably $1,000, $1,200 in the streets, if that. So, and he been in for 26 years. You know what I'm saying? So, even if it was the RICO Act or he was the leader of selling some drugs and he got found guilty for 52 grams and a few sales or other sales on top of that, like, there's no way that a person can be doing life in prison behind it. And I just want the world to really see, and not just the world, like I say, different politics and people that make policy, I want them to understand this stuff and really see what's going on, because that's an underline, that's an undercurrent in the system that a lot of people is not familiar with. Not even some politicians.
So like they don't know about enhancements.
They don't know about this stuff.
Right.
They don't know that's really a part of the, what was the DVD, I mean the thing that was on Netflix, it's not titled 13, the 13th Amendment, they call it the 13th, and you look at that whole, how all that thing play out, this right here is a prime example of that. Because not just that, throughout the interview, another thing me and Tone talked about was the fact that when on the Miller case, right, they changed the law on the Youth Act and they gave everybody a chance to appeal or petition. But they only gave them a year window. Right. So if you don't know about this and you find out and you 4 months in, they talking about you got 4 more months to file, you don't know law, you got to write your own motions and everything and stuff in pig Latin and all type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
They call it being time barred.
Yeah.
So we say, prisoners, how can you time bar justice?
Exactly.
Justice should be forever. It shouldn't be a time bar on justice telling us that we only have 1 year to file a motion.
And what did Martin Luther King say? He said an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. So at the end of the day, we want to shed light to this injustice. We want to talk about these illegal sentences. And one of the things another thing that we want to accomplish, right, is to be able to educate some of our youth and some of our youngers that's going through some of the same thing that we was going through at that time and point in their life, that don't understand law and don't understand this system and this federal system and how they got things set up against us. Yeah. So that we can go ahead and fall right into the 13th Amendment. You know what I mean? So it's a thing now, man, where it's that when a person been locked up for 26 years, and you saying that they time barred, so like you say, they putting the time on justice. They saying that you can only have justice for a year. If you don't file within that year, then you can't get this justice no more. This justice don't apply. This law don't.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to you.
You no more,
yeah.
right? So his
They call
stuff,
it being procedurally barred.
right. So a lot of things that Tone may file, right? Because like you say, you know, Tone a fighter. He gonna go up, he gonna fight that giant. So he fighting, but then he petition and put in something, and then it gets to the clerk. It never make it to the judge because the clerk looking at it saying, well, this time bar. What about this going to the next? And you know, so Tone case never make it to a judge that can sit back and think rationally and say this was unfair, this was unfair. Let's get him back in court so we can work this stuff out. You see what I mean? So that's another one of his dilemmas.
So what is your intention for, or what was your intention when you did the interview? What do you hope or plan to accomplish?
Well, I want to take it to Carl Racine.
Well, besides getting justice for Mr. White.
Over to I want to just educate the people on the illegal sentences and on the guidelines and how they and these enhancements. They criminal. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And Tone, by us understanding who he is, by the leader that he is, and the work that I do in the community, you know, I feel like it's holding our city up in a way, because when you look at what we're dealing with in the aftermath of the crack, the aftermath of slavery, we dealing with a lot of the aftermath from a lot of things that our people went through. Mm-hmm. And I believe that this city, the cure, is in the community. Tone is one of the leaders that can bring leaders together. See, it's a lot of leaders that's home now. Mm-hmm. Like me, you, it's a lot of us out here that some people came home off of long stretches and some of us been out here. But even though we leaders, right, we need that leader to bring us together as leaders. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? So that we can take our city and keep and remain in our city through the gentrification. Have stake in our city. Bring like a solution to some of this killing and violence and stuff like that, because we are the solution for real. Mm-hmm. But it's not enough of us on ground with different strategies in place. You understand what I'm saying? So like we have to now go back and fight to get our leaders out, especially the ones like Antone that's been illegally sentenced. You know what I mean? We should be able to bring him back. We bring brothers like this back, that's gonna bring the leaders back, and then we can take the streets back. Because we can go to these communities and we can educate our youngins, and they're gonna follow us and they're gonna listen to us because they know who we are. If they don't know us personally, they heard about us. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So when we walk up and say, okay, I'm such and such, I want to speak to you about this, or I'm having an event over here, or I want you to come to this class and things like that, we're gonna be attractive to them. You know what I mean? Because they sit back and heard about our stories over the years. You see what I mean? So we need to make that connection. We need our young to meet up with our old, so that we can come with the solution, so that we won't be having a murder every other day like the City Under Siege was when we was coming up.
Okay, I want to segue into what you just said about solutions, because a lot of times you'll hear people say, go to school, get good grades, and go to college, and you'll get a job, and everything is going to work out. A lot of us didn't have that opportunity. Or you hear, or we'll say, to a lot of the youngsters, we'll say, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't sell drugs, you shouldn't carry a gun, you shouldn't be involving yourself in violence. And then when they say, okay, what should we do? We don't have an answer. So
the answer to that is, when we engage, and it's through engagement, we got to engage our community. We got to engage them on a level and meet them where they at. So you might got a youngin' that he can't read or write, right? How do you engage him? Meet him where he at. Let him understand that, look, I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying? You got to peel them back like an onion, because they got so much stuff that they dealing with socially, right? From their household, their mother might be on crack, their father locked up, and then they run around with their men, they got the joint on this and that. So they're dealing with so many social ailments that it takes a person like us to understand that and have been through that to meet them where they at. Anybody else can't meet them where they at. So school might not be for everybody. So he may have to be groomed into an entrepreneur. So, but it takes somebody to come back and show us how to break down things in that way, from a street perspective, a language that they understand. right? And then they gotta be walked with, because you got some people that judge them. They'll go around and talk to some youngins or a gang of youngins. They might call themselves this gang or that crew or whatever like that. And then when we go out supposedly to help them, and when a youngin turn away and shut down and be closed up, we give up. Or we start talking about, oh, he don't want them youngins anything. They crash and they this, they that. But the reality of it is they got so much social illness and so much stuff built up in them with nobody to talk to process or unload nothing that they going through with that can relate to them in a language that they know how to speak and things like that, that they shut down and people start judging them. We can't do that. And sometimes, like I've heard people say, man, I ain't taking them by the hand. I'm not holding nobody's hand. Either he want to do this and do that. No, we got to hold them by the hand, because it's so much to deal with on all of the levels and all of the layers of stuff that the way that they was raised and came up so wrong and was so unjust, right? That we failed them as a community because we didn't go and to make sure things was all right with this kid like we should have been doing, and a lot of us was locked up. So we ain't know what was going on. You know what I mean? We heard it through the grapevine. So yeah, so what I do is, if I get a youngin that I make a connection with, he might don't want to get up and go to the interview. So guess what? I'm gonna go wake him up in the morning. I'm going to his house.
So the solution,
we gonna
not in a blanket. It needs to be individualized solutions based on each individual, so to speak.
Exactly. We have. That's why we need able people. We need more people. We need way more soldiers. We need way more leaders. And things like this illegal sentencing, like Tone, not the only one that's illegal sentenced, right? Mm-hmm. But Tone is one of our main leaders, not just in the street, even on the inside. He's one of the guys that brings solutions to things that the homies go through with other cities and states and other gangs and stuff like that inside of the penitentiary. So Tone is in there mentoring them. And that's how we reconnected. Because I hadn't seen Tone from up to jail since we was up there. Back then, that's the last time I seen it, like 20 years. Me and Tone connected probably in about 10, 15 years into his bit. We lost connection because I was locked up in and out and things like that. But the way that we connected was because the youngest that I was helping in the street, right? The ones that I couldn't save wind up down there with Tone. Mm-hmm. And when they come in there, they telling Tone like, yeah, man, Keith and Wali. And Tone couldn't put the names together.
Right. He
knew Lil Keith, but they didn't know how I took my shahada. I was Wali now.
Right.
So it took for some pictures. One of my youngest was down there and showed him some pictures. And he was like, Wali, that's my man. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got on the phone with Tone 10, 15 years into this 26 years. Mm-hmm. And it was like we reconnected through the work. Because he mentoring from the inside, I'm mentoring from the outside. Right. So then when he get the youngin up under his wing, the youngin telling him about me. Then they calling me on the phone like, man, man, OG down here, man, Antone. I'm like, yeah, that's my man. Let him on the phone. So it kept happening. So that's when Tone started to say, man, Wally, man, I really, man, admire what you're doing. You know what I mean, with these youngins, because it's not nothing that somebody that I'm talking about. He's seeing it with his own eyes, because even when the youngin go to the penitentiary, Tone will tell you, I still don't give up. I'm still going to see him. I'm still going to go check on his kids and see about his mother and send him some money. You know what I mean? Even though he made decisions contrary to what we may have been working on. Right. You see what I'm saying? We may have been working on him getting a GED or starting a business or going to work or, getting his urine clean and things like that. And then he go fumble and get a gun charge, or he done robbed somebody, or whatever the case may be, made some bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And then he bumping the Tone on the inside. So it's like now I hand him over to Tone. So now me and Tone talk on the phone, and I'm like, I want to know what's going on with him. And he like, nah, Wally, I got him, man. I got him reading this, and he doing this right now. I got him working on his case and this and that. So it's like a handoff, right? So I'm saying, like, the work that I'm doing, I need guys like this back in the community, because this is the answer for the community. And he has that type of name and reputation that when the other leaders hear about him returning and doing the work that I know that he planning on doing, like the stuff that he doing with OurCity and stuff like that he dealing with that, as far as like from the clothing line to the website and the message that he trying to get out. Right. So that's why we trying to do our part on the outside, is to get him back out here.
Well, I hope you all have benefited from this interview. I want you youngsters to really understand something about what Brother Wali was talking about. Enhancements. This is very, very, very important for you all to understand.